Darren had never expected to be standing in the grand hall of the Zarethi Empire. The room was vast, filled with tall pillars carved from shining black stone. Soft lights hung from the ceiling, casting calm shadows over everything. At the far end, on a raised platform, sat Queen Valeri. She was tall, with sharp eyes that seemed to look through everything. Her skin was a smooth blue-gray, and her hair flowed like liquid silver behind her. Around her sat her council and guards, all watching Darren carefully. For a human, this was a place of legends and power. The Zarethi were known across many star systems as strong warriors and wise rulers. They rarely allowed outsiders inside their walls, especially humans who were still a mystery to many. But Darren was different. He had saved a Zarethi guard from an ambush during a dangerous mission on a faraway planet. The Queen had heard of his bravery and ordered him to come here. Darren felt the weight of many eyes on him. Some were filled with suspicion, others with curiosity. Still, he held his head high. He was a human, yes, but he was not afraid. As he approached the throne, the Queen's voice cut through the quiet. "Human," she said with a calm but firm tone, "you have done well to reach this place. Speak your purpose." Darren bowed his head slightly but did not kneel. It was a small act, but many around gasped. No one had ever dared to show such respect without full submission. He looked up at her, steady and sure. "Queen Valeri," he sighed, "I come with respect and honesty. I ask to speak openly with you." The Queen raised a single eyebrow, clearly amused. "Speak then," she said. Darren took a deep breath. This was the moment many humans would hesitate. They would fear the power, the unknown. "But not Darren, I ask you," he said. "Will you consider mating with me?" The hall fell silent. Even the guards held their breath. The Queen's eyes widened, her lips parting slightly in surprise. No one had ever dared to ask such a thing. "Certainly not a human, and especially not so boldly. Explain yourself," she said after a moment. Darren stepped forward, voice clear and calm. "I understand that to you this request is bold, even shocking. But to humans, it is a sign of great respect and trust. It means I see you not just as a ruler, but as a partner. I offer not just myself, but my loyalty and my heart." The Queen studied him carefully. She could see no fear in his eyes, only honesty and courage. "Why do you, a human, make such a request?" she asked softly. "Because," Darren answered, "humans respect strength, wisdom, and spirit. You have all three. And I believe that together, we can create a bond stronger than any empire." The Queen looked away for a moment, then back at him. "This is unheard of," she said. "Your kind are strangers to our ways." "I do not know all your ways," Darren admitted, "but I am willing to learn, and I am willing to prove myself." A murmur ran through the crowd. Some laughed. Quietly, others whispered questions. The Queen raised her hand, silencing them. "You have surprised me, human," she said. "Few have the courage to speak as you do." "But words alone are not enough," Darren nodded. "I know." The Queen stood from her throne, her silver hair falling around her like a waterfall. She approached Darren slowly, her sharp eyes fixed on him. "If you truly wish to be more than a visitor," she said, "you must understand what you are asking. To be with the Zarethi Queen is to face challenges far beyond what you know." "I am ready," Darren said. For a moment, the Queen said, "Nothing." And she smiled faintly. "Very well. We shall see if your courage matches your words." She turned and motioned to her guards. "Escort him to the chambers. He will stay under watch until we decide his fate." Darren was led away, his heart pounding not with fear, but with hope. This was only the beginning. The corridors were cooler than the Great Hall. The walls hummed softly with energy. Darren was taken to a room decorated with rich fabrics and soft lights. He was left alone with a single guard, who bowed respectfully. Later, the Queen's voice came through a small communicator. "You will remain here for now, human. Prepare yourself. The path you have chosen is not easy." Darren sat on the edge of a soft couch, thinking about what he had done. He had surprised a queen. He had broken ancient customs. But more than that, he had opened a door. The galaxy was vast and full of rules. Yet sometimes it took only one bold human to change everything. Days passed in the quiet chamber. Darren spent his time studying the strange symbols and art around him, trying to understand the culture of the Zarethi. But most of all, he thought about the Queen Valeri. He knew she was powerful, proud, and wise. Yet her silence made him wonder if she saw him as a fool or a threat. Then, one evening, a soft knock came at the door. A guard entered, bowing deeply. "The Queen requests your presence," he said simply. Darren stood, his heart steady but his mind alert. He followed the guard through twisting halls back to the throne chamber. When he entered, the room felt colder than before. Queen Valeri sat calmly, but her eyes held a new sharpness. She motioned for him to approach. "You have made a dangerous request. Human," she said quietly. Darren met her gaze without hesitation. "I understand," he replied, "but I did not speak lightly. I meant every word." Valeri leaned forward, resting her hands on the armrests of her throne. "To ask for mating is more than a personal matter among my people. It is a bond of power, loyalty, and destiny. It can unite or divide entire worlds." Darren nodded. "I know little of your customs, but I want to learn." The Queen's eyes narrowed, thoughtful. "Do you truly understand what it means to bond with the Zarethi Queen?" "It means sharing strength," Darren said. "Respecting each other, protecting what matters." Valeri smiled briefly, but it was not warm. "Many before you have asked for favor or power and lost their lives. Why should I not see you as another foolish human?" Darren's voice was calm and firm. "Because I am not like others. Humans face fear with courage. We value truth even when it is hard. I do not want power for myself. I want to build something stronger with you." The Queen studied him silently. Then she rose from her throne and walked down the steps toward him. Her movements were smooth and confident. "You show bravery, human, but words are only the first test." Darren took a deep breath. "What test?" Valari's voice was low, serious. "In Zarethi tradition, a mate must prove their worth through 3 trials: strength, wisdom, and spirit. Only then can a bond be made." Darren's eyes widened slightly, but he quickly nodded. "I accept your trials." The Queen raised an eyebrow in surprise. "Many Zarethi nobles avoid these tests. They are not easy. You could fail and pay the price." Darren's voice did not waver. "If I fail, I accept the consequences. But if I pass, I will stand beside you as partner." Valeri looked into his eyes, searching for any sign of doubt. She found none. "Very well," she said. "Your first trial will begin at dawn." The Queen called her guard. "Prepare the arena," she ordered. Darren was led to a large open space outside the palace. It was surrounded by tall walls and filled with strange weapons and armor. The air was sharp and cool. In the center stood a creature unlike any Darren had seen. It was a large, 4-legged beast with thick scales and sharp claws. Its eyes glowed faintly, filled with wild hunger. "This is the trial of strength," Valeri explained. "You must defeat the beast with your skill and mind. If it defeats you, you will be wounded or worse." Darren's heart raced, but he remembered the training he had as a soldier on Earth. He knew fear was normal, but it could not control him. The beast growled and charged. Darren rolled to the side just in time, feeling the air rush past where he had stood. He quickly looked for any weakness. The creature's heavy legs moved slow but strong, and its scales were thick. He grabbed a metal rod nearby and held it ready. The battle was fierce. The beast attacked with powerful strikes, but Darren used speed and careful movements. He dodged, aimed for soft spots near the joints, and avoided the claws. At one point, the beast caught his arm and pain shot through him. But Darren did not fall. He bit his lip and pushed forward. Using his knowledge of animals, Darren tricked the creature into charging into a corner. Then, with a strong swing of the metal rod, he struck the beast's head. It staggered, then fell. Silent, the crowd that had gathered in the arena erupted in cheers. Even some of the Queen's guards clapped quietly. Valeri watched, her face unreadable. "You have passed the trial of strength," she said simply. Darren wiped sweat from his forehead, breathing hard but proud. As he was led away, he thought about the next trials: wisdom and spirit. He did not know what to expect, but he was ready. He had surprised the queen once. He would do it again. After the trial of strength, Darren's body ached, but his spirit stayed strong. He had earned the queen's respect by defeating the fierce beast. But he knew the hardest challenges were still ahead. Queen Valerie summoned him to the palace's ancient archive the next morning. The archive was a vast hall filled with towering shelves that reached the ceiling. Strange symbols and glowing tablets lined the walls. The air smelled of old stone and quiet wisdom. This, Valerie said, is the place where our ancestors stored their knowledge. Here begins your trial of wisdom. Darren looked around with awe. The archive was unlike any library he had seen. The knowledge here was written in a language he barely understood, but he could feel its power. Valerie led him to a large stone table with a puzzle carved into its surface. The puzzle was an ancient riddle, one that had been passed down for generations. It was said that no one could solve it easily, not even the greatest minds of the Scifi. You must solve this riddle, Valerie explained. It holds the key to understanding our past and the future. If you fail, you will be sent away forever. Darren took a deep breath. The pressure was heavy, but he was determined. He studied the carvings on the table carefully. The riddle was a series of symbols that formed a pattern with missing pieces. The challenge was to figure out the missing parts and complete the design. At first, the symbols seemed random, but Darren noticed small clues, the way some symbols repeated, the flow from one to the next, and the changes in shape. He remembered lessons from Earth about logic and patterns. Hours passed as he worked quietly. Sometimes he felt stuck and frustrated, but he did not give up. He sketched different possibilities on a piece of parchment Valerie's guard had given him. At one point, he realized the symbols were not just random shapes. They told a story about the Scifi's origins and their belief in balance between mind and body. Darren carefully arranged the symbols to complete the pattern. Then, with a steady hand, he traced the last missing piece. Suddenly, the table lit up softly. The ancient mechanisms inside the table moved, opening a hidden compartment. Inside was a small crystal with a warm glow. Valerie's eyes widened in surprise. No one has solved this riddle in centuries, she said quietly. Darren looked up, feeling a mix of relief and pride. You have passed the trial of wisdom, Valerie announced to the small group of courtiers watching, but the queen's tone grew serious. The trials are not just tests of knowledge. They measure your mind and your heart. Darren nodded. I understand. I do not know everything about your people, but I want to learn and grow. Valerie stepped closer. This is why many humans confuse us. They see strength or technology, but miss the spirit behind it. You show patience and thoughtfulness? That is rare? The queen paused and looked around the room. The last trial is the most difficult. It will test your spirit like nothing else. Are you ready? Darren felt a chill run down his spine, but he stood tall. I am ready. Valerie smiled softly. The trial of spirit is not a fight or a puzzle. It is a journey inside yourself. Darren's eyes met hers. What kind of journey? Tomorrow, you will enter the shadow dream. It is a sacred place where your fears, memories, and hopes come alive. You will face your past and find your true self. Darren swallowed hard. It sounds difficult. It is, Valerie said. Many Scifi do not return the same after the shadow dream. Some never return at all. Darren's heart beat faster, but he did not back away. I will face it. Valerie nodded approvingly. Then rest now. Tomorrow, the final trial begins. Darren left the archive and found a quiet spot in the palace gardens. He sat beneath a tall tree, watching the stars begin to shine in the evening sky. He thought of Earth, his family, and the path that had brought him here. The journey was hard, but he believed in his purpose. If he could face the trials and win the queen's trust, maybe he could change not only his fate but the future of two worlds. The night before the final trial, Darren lay awake on a soft bed in a quiet room deep inside the palace. The walls were decorated with tapestries that told stories of Scifi heroes and gods, but his mind was not on the stories. It was on the shadow dream the trial that would test his spirit. He had faced many dangers before, fierce beasts, deadly puzzles, but this was different. This was a journey inside himself, a place where his fears, memories, and deepest thoughts would come alive. The queen had warned him, many never returned the same. He closed his eyes and tried to prepare himself. He thought about his past, the wars he had fought, the friends he had lost, the mistakes he had made. He thought about why he had come here, to this distant empire, and why he had dared to ask a queen to mate with him. He was not sure if he was brave or foolish, but he was determined. Early the next morning, a silent guard led Darren to a small chamber. The air was cool and still. In the center was a circle of soft light on the floor. The guard explained quietly, "Step into the circle, and your journey will begin. The shadow dream is not real, but your mind will feel as if it is." Darren nodded, took a deep breath, and stepped inside. At first, everything was quiet. Then, slowly, shadows rose around him like a mist. Shapes began to form, faces, places, and sounds from his past. The world faded away, and he found himself standing alone in a dark forest. The trees were tall and silent, their leaves whispering softly. A voice echoed in his mind, soft but clear. "Face your fears, human, only then can you find your true self." Darren moved forward, unsure of what awaited him. Soon the shadows changed. He saw a young boy himself as a child standing alone in a war-torn village. The boy looked scared and lost. Darren's heart tightened. He remembered those days, the pain, the fear. The boy turned and looked at him with wide eyes. "Why did you leave me?" the boy asked. Darren knelt down and spoke softly. "I did not leave. I was scared too, but I am here now." The boy reached out, and Darren took his small hand. For a moment the fear seemed to ease. Then the shadows shifted again. Darren was now in a battlefield surrounded by smoke and noise. He saw his friends falling one by one, and he could feel the heavy weight of loss and failure. Guilt and sadness washed over him. A figure stepped forward, a commander, who blamed him for a mistake that cost lives. "You failed us," the commander said coldly. Darren's hands clenched. But he did not run or fight. He took a deep breath. "I did my best," he said quietly, "and I will learn from my mistakes." The commander's face softened and faded into the mist. The forest around him began to glow faintly as if the shadows were lifting. Darren felt a warmth inside him, a light. Growing stronger. Then the voice spoke again. "You have faced your past. Now face your future." Suddenly, Darren found himself standing on a high cliff overlooking two worlds, Earth and the Scifi Empire. The stars shone brightly above, and the wind whispered promises of hope and change. In the distance, he saw Queen Valerie waiting. Darren took a deep breath and stepped forward. The shadows faded, and he was back in the chamber. The soft light dimmed, and the guard helped him out. He was tired, but something inside him had changed. He felt stronger, not just in body, but in heart and mind. Later that day, Queen Valerie met him again in the throne chamber. She looked at him with a new respect. "You have passed the trial of spirit," she said simply. Darren bowed his head. "Thank you, Your Majesty." The queen smiled faintly. "Many Scifi nobles fear the shadow dream. They cannot face their own truths, but you have shown great courage." Darren met her gaze. "I have only been honest with myself." Valerie stepped down from her throne and approached him. "The trials are complete. You have proven your strength, wisdom, and spirit." She paused, then spoke softly. "Now I must decide if you are worthy to be my mate." Darren waited quietly, heart steady. The queen's voice was low but clear. "Your boldness brought you here. Your courage kept you alive. But to bond with the Scifi queen is to share more than power. It is to share trust, respect, and future." She reached out her hand. "Will you stand beside me, not just as a mate, but as a partner?" Darren took her hand without hesitation. "I will." A gentle light seemed to fill the room. The queen's eyes softened. "The galaxy will watch us now. But together we will shape a new path," Darren smiled. Together. The grand hall was filled with silence, broken only by the soft footsteps of Queen Valerie as she descended from her throne. Darren stood steady, his heart calm but full of hope. The trials had tested his strength, wisdom, and spirit. Now the moment of truth had arrived. Around them, the Zarethi nobles and guards watched closely. Many were surprised that a human had come so far, but no one dared to speak against the queen's will. Valeri paused before Darren. Her eyes, sharp as ever, searched his face deeply, as if trying to read every thought. You have done what few have dared, she said softly. You faced the beast, the riddle, and your own soul. You have passed the trials that define a mate of the Zarethi. Darren nodded respectfully. I am honored, Your Majesty. The queen looked away for a moment, her expression thoughtful. My life has been long, she began, filled with battles, victories, and sacrifices. As a queen, I carry the weight of my people on my shoulders. Power comes at a price: loneliness, mistrust, and constant struggle. She turned back to Darren, her gaze softening. I have met many who sought to stand beside me. Few were worthy. Fewer still understood the true meaning of partnership. Darren's voice was steady. I do not claim to be perfect, but I offer honesty, loyalty, and respect. I want to build a future with you, one that honors both our worlds. Valeri studied him silently. Then slowly she smiled. Your words are unlike those I have heard before. You speak not as a subject, but as an equal. This is rare and precious. She stepped closer. But understand this, human. To be my mate is to share not only joys, but burdens. You will face challenges you cannot yet imagine. Your courage will be tested every day. Darren met her eyes without fear. I am ready for what comes. The queen's smile deepened. Very well. The bond will begin now. At her command, 2 attendants brought forward a simple silver band and a small crystal vial filled with glowing liquid. Valeri took the band and carefully placed it on Darren's finger. This is the sign of unity, she explained. It links us not only in body but in spirit. Then she uncorked the vial and offered the liquid to Darren. It will strengthen your bond and prepare you for the journey ahead. Drink. Darren drank the liquid. It was cool and slightly sweet. Almost instantly, he felt a gentle warmth spread through him, a calm strength that settled deep inside. Valeri took the vial herself and drank as well. Then she reached out and took Darren's hand. A bond formed in truth and courage is strong. Together we will face the challenges to come. The nobles around them whispered in surprise and awe. A human and the queen partners. It was a story that would spread across the stars. As the ceremony ended, Valeri turned to Darren. Tomorrow you will meet my council. They will test your ideas and your heart. But I trust you. Darren smiled, grateful for her confidence. Thank you, Your Majesty. I will not disappoint you. Later that night, Darren sat alone in his chamber, thinking about the journey he had taken. From a simple soldier on Earth to a partner of an alien queen, it was hard to believe, but the future was uncertain. He knew that not everyone would accept their bond. Some would see him as a threat or a prize. Others would try to use him for their own gain, yet he felt ready. He believed that with respect and courage, even the greatest differences could be overcome. The next morning, Darren was led to a grand meeting hall filled with the Queen's Council. The room buzzed with quiet conversation as powerful figures awaited him. The council was made of wise elders, fierce warriors, and skilled diplomats. They studied him with sharp eyes, testing his resolve. One elder spoke first. Human, you ask to be part of our world. What do you bring to the Zarethi Empire? Darren stood tall. I bring respect for your culture, a desire to learn, and a promise to protect your people as I protect my own. I bring the strength of humanity's hope and the will to build peace. A warrior leaned forward. Your trials show courage, but can you lead? Can you protect us when enemies come? Darren met the warrior's gaze firmly. On Earth I have led men into battle and kept them safe. I will do the same for you. Together we will be stronger. The diplomats exchanged glances. Your words are hopeful, one said, but the galaxy is dangerous. Trust is hard to earn. Darren nodded. I know. I will earn your trust by my actions. The council continued to question him, challenging his ideas and values. Darren answered honestly and thoughtfully. His confidence and respect impressed many. After hours of discussion, the council's leader stood. "Human, you have shown wisdom and courage. You have answered our doubts." She looked at the queen. "The bond is strong. The future is uncertain, but hopeful." Valeri nodded with approval. "Then it is done." Darren bowed deeply. "Thank you." The room filled with quiet applause. Darren felt a new sense of belonging. Later, alone with the queen, he spoke softly. "Thank you for believing in me." Valeri smiled. "You surprised me, human. Not just with your boldness, but with your heart." Darren took her hand gently. "This is only the beginning." Together they looked toward the stars, ready to face whatever the future held. The days after the council meeting were busy and full of change. Darren was no longer just a visitor or a challenger. He was now a partner to Queen Valeria, bond that stirred curiosity, hope, and concern throughout the Scifi Empire. Darren walked the palace halls with quiet confidence. Guards nodded to him and servants smiled politely. Still, he knew some nobles whispered behind closed doors, doubting a human could truly belong. Valeri noticed this too. One evening, as they walked through the palace gardens, she stopped and looked at him closely. "Do you feel the weight of their doubts?" she asked. Darren nodded slowly. "Yes, many do not understand what we have started. They see me as an outsider." Valeri's eyes softened. "Change is never easy, but courage and patience can overcome fear." Darren smiled. "I will do my best." Together they began meeting with the Empire's leaders. They discussed trade, defense, and ways to strengthen the bond between their peoples. Darren shared ideas. From Earth, simple but new to the Scifi, such as ways to protect their ships with teamwork and technology. Queen Valeri was impressed by his creativity and calm mind. She trusted him more with each passing day. One afternoon, news came from the border planets. A group of hostile forces was gathering, threatening peace in the region. The Empire's warriors prepared for battle. Valeri called Darren to the command room. "This may be your greatest test," she said. "Will you stand with us in defense?" Darren did not hesitate. "I will stand with you and your people." The next days were filled with preparation. Darren worked with the commanders, sharing tactics and plans. The humans and Scifi soldiers trained together, learning from each other. When the battle finally came, it was fierce and fast. The enemy attacked with speed and numbers, but the united forces of the Scifi and humans fought with strength and heart. Darren led a small team through a dangerous path to flank the enemy. His quick decisions and calm under pressure saved many lives. The warriors around him began to see him not as a human outsider, but as a brave leader. After days of fighting, the enemy retreated. Victory belonged to the Empire and its new alliance. Back in the palace, Queen Valeri greeted Darren with a proud smile. "You fought well," she said. Darren shrugged modestly. "I only did what was necessary." Valeri took his hand. "Together, we are stronger. The galaxy will remember this day." As peace returned, Darren and Valeri found moments of quiet. They walked the gardens, shared meals, and spoke of hopes for the future. One night, beneath the stars, Valeri spoke softly. "Tell me, human, what do you see when you look at our worlds?" Darren looked up at the sky. "I see two peoples who can learn from each other. I see strength in difference and hope in unity." Valeri smiled, her eyes reflecting the stars. "You speak like a true partner." Darren reached for her hand. "And I will stand by you no matter what comes." The bond between them grew deeper, not just by ceremony, but by trust and shared purpose. Though the road ahead was uncertain, they faced it together. Their story was no longer just about a bold request. It was about two worlds joining to create a new future. The galaxy was watching. News of the human who had boldly asked the alien queen to mate and the queen surprising acceptance spread across star systems like wildfire. Some were amazed, others skeptical, but all knew that something new had begun. Darren stood beside Queen Valeri on the balcony of the royal palace. Before them lay the glowing city of the Scifi Empire, alive with lights and life. Stars shimmered above like scattered diamonds on black velvet. Valeri spoke softly. her voice steady. Our people have lived apart for too long. Now, with this bond, we have a chance to build something better. Darren nodded. I believe that together we can change the future, not just for the Zarethi or humans, but for all who share the stars. Behind them, the court watched silently, a mix of wonder and respect in their eyes. Days turned into weeks as Darren and Valeri worked to unite their peoples. They traveled to distant planets, speaking to leaders and citizens alike. Sometimes they faced distrust and fear. Other times, hope and joy, but through every challenge, their partnership grew stronger. They showed that respect and courage could overcome differences. One evening, as they returned to the palace, a message arrived from a neighboring Empire once a rival. Now, curious about the new alliance, the message was clear. We wish to meet the human, and the queen who dared to change the galaxy. Valeri turned to Darren. This is your moment. The galaxy is ready to listen. Darren took a deep breath. Then let's show them what unity means. The meeting was held on neutral ground, a space station floating among the stars. Representatives from many species gathered, their eyes full of questions. Darren and Valeri stood side by side as they entered. The room grew quiet. Valeri spoke first. We come not as conquerors or strangers, but as partners who believe in peace and strength through unity. Darren followed. Our worlds are different, but our hopes are the same. We want a future where all can live free and strong. The representatives listened carefully. Some nodded slowly, others whispered among themselves. After long talks, agreements were made, trade routes opened. Defense pacts formed and cultural exchanges planned. It was a new era. Back on the Zarethi homeworld, celebrations filled the streets. Music and laughter echoed through the night. The people saw the human and their queen not as separate, but as a symbol of hope. In a quiet moment, Valeri and Darren stood beneath the twin moons. Do you ever regret your bold request? She asked with a gentle smile. Darren shook his head. Never. It was the bravest thing I have done. Valeri reached for his hand, and the best. Together they looked to the stars, knowing their journey was far from over, but one thing was clear. Two very different worlds had come together through courage, respect, and a bond that would change the galaxy forever.